Thank you all. Howdy. Howdy. Give it up for John Rainey, your state representative. He's wearing blue tonight, but I can tell you in the Capitol he wears maroon, which may not make everybody in the room happy, but he represents Brazos County extraordinarily well. I want to thank Dr. McMaster for hosting this event at this wonderful school. Give it up for Dr. McMaster. And after me, you will hear from Mandy Drogan, and she will tell you her story, but she is so powerful because of her commitment, because of her children. We know that one reason why we gather here tonight is because of our children. As John Rainey was talking about, the way I devoted most of my time during my daughter's formative years was to be her primary educator. Yes, we depended upon schools to teach her, and yes, my wife, who was a former teacher, but I needed to be involved also, which is why I dedicated my life to making sure she did receive the best possible education, which included input from her parents. And Ellen, thank you for being here, and thank you for your testimony. You made a point that I want to circle back to and emphasize. She used one word that's of utmost importance, and that word is freedom. Remember what we celebrated last week, and remember what the young student, by the way, you did a fabulous job. He read the letter of William B. Travis, the letter that was sent about 10 days before the Battle of the Alamo, the fall of the Alamo. That battle was about one thing that we declared on March the 2nd, which is independence for the state of Texas. Independence is freedom. William B. Travis understood something that every Texan has understood. Freedom is worth fighting for and even dying for. Amongst those freedoms, paramount among them is the freedom of a parent to educate their child. And that's what Ellen said. She said people should have a hard time reading my writing. You said people should be making education, the people who should be making education decisions are parents. Think about this. If it's, you can applaud that, but if it's not parents, who is making that education decision? Have you even thought about this? I'll tell you who's making the education decision. Is the default position, and that is government. It's government that assigns you to a particular school. And what I think is we need to step back and get into the framework of what our country is all about, like what Ellen was saying. Our country is premised on freedom, and that freedom, as it concerns raising children, rests foremost in parents. Parents deserve the freedom to choose the best education pathway for their child. That is what we're here seeking tonight in Brazos County, Texas. Now, with that said, let me emphasize something that I cannot overemphasize. I am a staunchly strong proponent of our public schools. Our public schools are essential for the state of Texas to be able to succeed. I am a product of public schools. I went to public schools in Longview, Texas, and then in Duncanville, Texas. And as Representative Rainey was talking about, listen, we've done a lot for schools. But candidly, I am proud of what our public schools have been able to achieve. As we gather in Brazos County now, I can tell you that Texas is the ranking #1 in the United States of America with the most blue ribbon schools. That is a product of us having good schools. We have one of the highest high school graduation rates in the United States of America. And very importantly, a report recently came out about where students stand based upon racial criteria. And I can tell you that among the largest states in America, Texas ranks #1 for the way that black students in Texas scored on math and reading scores. #1, and that's in public schools in the state of Texas. And we've done so much to advance public education in Texas. I, as governor, have provided more funding for public education than any governor in the history of this state. I provided more funding for teacher pay raises than any governor in the history of this state. Also, per student funding is now at an all-time high. And let me tell you, this session, regardless of what happens with school choice, this session, we're going to add even more money for public education, including more money for teacher pay raises this session to the tune of billions more dollars for public education in the state of Texas. You know, when I was growing up, I went to elementary school in Longview and then junior high and high school in Dallas. And when I was growing up, we focused on the basics. Reading and writing and math and science. But in addition to that, we were inspired by our country's founding and the way that it stood apart from the rest of the entire world as the beacon of liberty and opportunity. The truth of the matter is, not all students today are receiving that type of education. And I can give you an example that I just learned when I was in Conroe, Texas a few days ago. In Conroe, Texas, one of the principals at that event at the private school that we were at told a story about how previously for many, many years was an educator in public schools. And there were several reasons behind her leaving public schools and becoming a principal for this private school. But she said the straw that broke the camel's back was when a history teacher at the public school that she was at was using his position as a history teacher to teach kids to disrespect the flag of the United States of America. Let me tell you something. We will not use your taxpayer dollars to teach our students to hate the United States of America. Thank you for your service. If schools were limited to teaching one thing, it would be this: educate our kids how 13 colonies joined together and turned into the mightiest country in the history of the entire world, and what must be done to perpetuate that. We have a responsibility to make sure that the next generation will make our country as successful as we have been in the past. And some schools simply are not living up to that task. In fact, Mandy and I were in Amarillo just last week. And there again was a principal at that school that we were at who had been a longtime public school teacher. And she was astonished when she went to this private school at which she was now the superintendent, that they begin their day reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I was astonished because I thought that happened at every school. That is exactly what should happen at every school, where we honor the country that allows us to have the freedom to educate our children. Listen, there are a lot of parents who are rightfully happy with their children being in public school, and that's great, and we want to support those parents. But at the very same time, there are parents who are angry about experiences that they've had in school. Some parents remain angry that their children were forced to wear a mask to school against the parent's desire and against the child's desire. But even more heartbreaking are the countless parents who were forced to watch their children learn not at school, but through a Zoom or some other virtual learning, and then watching before their very eyes the children fall behind in their education. And then there is this mother in Conroe, a mother who was frustrated with Conroe Independent School District that she said her son, who has autism, is being set up by the school district to fail. And she said something that I think resonates with every parent. She said that no one will fight for her kids the way that she will. We need to recognize that fact and the power of that reality. And that is the way that parents know and love and care about their child more than any educator ever can. And that input makes the output so much better. Other parents, and I'm hearing this a lot, in urban areas, suburban areas, and rural areas, parents are angry about the woke agenda that's being forced on their children in their schools. Schools should not be pushing a woke agenda on our children. Our schools are for education, not indoctrination. We must end that indoctrination. We must reform our curriculum, get back to the basics of learning, and empower parents. All parents deserve access to their students' curriculum, to their students' libraries, to what their children are being taught. And we will accomplish that this session with my parental Bill of Rights for every parent of a child who is in public or private school in the state of Texas. No one knows better. No one knows what is better for a child's success than their parents. So when it comes to education, it's very simple. Parents matter. And parents deserve the freedom to be able to choose the education pathway that's best for their child. Without that freedom, parents are hindered in their goal to help their child succeed. That needs to change this year. And the way to do it is with school choice through state-funded education savings accounts. Now, here's the deal. We've seen these programs work extremely well in other states, and we actually have already seen them work right here in the state of Texas. I created education savings accounts for special needs students here in Texas. It worked so well, an overwhelming supermajority of lawmakers, they codified, turned it into law, that program, and now they are seeking to increase funding for it. So all we want to do now is to expand that program to provide every parent with the ability to choose the education option that's best for their child. And listen, I know that when things new come along, people have questions, people have concerns. There are uncertainties that are raised. Some people say that school choice will defund our public schools and it will end high school football as we know it. The reality of it is that argument has been completely disproved here in Texas by what we saw in the aftermath of the launching and the expansion of charter schools in Texas. Charter schools began about 2 decades ago. And when that process began, the exact same arguments against charter schools are the same ones that are being used against school choice today. When charter schools were proposed, people said, listen, this is going to destroy public schools and it's going to defund them and public schools would be closing down, all that kind of stuff. Public schools are getting more money than they got back 2 decades ago. And schools are opening up, not closing down. And I can tell you this fact, high school football is better than it's ever been in the state of Texas. So none of the dire consequences have come about. Second, to be clear, under this school choice program, all public schools will be fully funded for every student, and accountability measures will apply to any school that receives this funding just like they apply in public schools. Very importantly, success in other states has proven that school choice does not destroy public schools. And you'll hear more about that from the next speaker. But let me make this one final point about the concerns raised. People act like this has to be an either-or type situation, either public schools or school choice. The fact of the matter is, with the funding the state has and with the opportunities that we can provide, it's a both. It's not like one is going to win and the other is going to lose. We have a win-win situation here. Public schools will continue to win. The students who attend them will actually do better if Texas history replicates the history of other states that have used school choice, as well as the parents and the children who choose school choice will wind up with better results. And the fact of the matter is, school choice is overwhelmingly popular among our fellow Texans. I can tell you that large majorities of people who are either Republican, Democrat, or independent support school choice. If you're black, white, Hispanic, or Asian, majorities of each of those groups support school choice. If you live in urban Texas or suburban Texas or rural Texas, overwhelming majorities of Texans support school choice in each of those regions. This issue is so vital to the future of our state. I made school choice an emergency item this legislative session. The reason why we're talking to you tonight is because the voice of everybody in this room, it matters. There are people who get paid a lot of money to go lobby in the legislature, and they're talking to legislators every single day why school choice should not be an option. I think most of you in this room, you don't have a paid lobbyist. You don't have anybody lobbying for you. You're busy taking care of your kids, trying to make ends meet, earn an income, just hoping for the best for your kids. Believe it or not, you have every capability of making a difference in this effort. You have time to make a 2-minute phone call. 2 minutes of your time for the future of your kid is not too much to ask. You'll hear shortly the details about all you have to do, but just 2 minutes of your time, one simple phone call, will show that you have weighed in your voice, which is the most important voice in the state of Texas. So let me just close with this concept. In Texas, we had a goal. Our goal was to make Texas the #1 state in the United States for jobs and the economy. Last week, I received an award called the Governor's Cup. The Governor's Cup goes to the state that ranks #1 for most new jobs created and for most economic expansion. Texas has won that award 11 straight years. Now, I know there are a lot of people in this town who may be familiar with who Nick Saban is. Maybe, there you go. So here's my point. I've won far more economic development national championships than Nick Saban has won college. Yeah, every finger gets a ring. You're exactly right. When I first became governor, in my first State of the State speech, I laid out a vision for another #1 ranking I wanted to achieve. I noted that other states were ahead of the state of Texas as it concerned Tier 1 research universities. And I said I wanted Texas to be ranked #1. And we were not even close to it at the time. Since that time, Texas has progressed, and now Texas is #1 for Tier 1 research universities in the United States of America. So what is our vision for educating our kids? Has anyone even ever told you what our vision is? I'm not sure one has been set. We've heard visions where we need to spend more per student. We need to increase spending here and there. We need to do better with this strategy or that strategy. But no one has really set out the vision. And it's time that we do that. And let me be clear about something that I think all Texans have the same attitude on. We don't believe in being 36th or 29th or even number 2. In Texas, we believe in one thing. Our vision must be one thing. Our vision must be to make sure that our students rank number 1 in the United States of America as the best educated students in this country. As Mandy will tell you more about later, there are success stories that follow the pathway of school choice that will achieve exactly that. But the key thing I want to hone in on my close is this point. I think a lot of you all know, if nothing else, just from my TV advertisements, maybe what you read in the newspaper, about why I'm in a wheelchair. In case you don't, I'll tell you. I was 26 years old when I moved to Houston to take a job, and one day I was out jogging. And on this day when I was out jogging, a huge oak tree, taller than the roof in the building we're in right now, it crashed down and it hit me in the back. And it crashed my vertebrae into my spinal cord, leaving me immediately paralyzed and never able to walk again. A lot of people in that situation where you can never walk again, they might give up. They might lose hope. They might wonder what's going to become of them. How are they going to thrive the way they were before? I set my mind immediately after my hospitalization that I was not going to allow this new challenge that I had, this new fate that I had, to determine what my future would look like. Instead, I decided that I would be defined by how I responded to this enormous challenge that I faced. And it was after the accident that put me in the wheelchair that I went on to become a justice on the Supreme Court of Texas, the longest serving attorney general in the history of our state, and now the governor of the greatest state in the United States of America. This principle applies to all of us. For all of us, our lives are not defined by how we're challenged, but how we respond to that challenge. We as a people of Texas, we have a challenge that we must step up to. We, all of us, must be all in on doing everything we must do to educate our children better, to educate our children to be ranked number 1. If we refuse to be defined by that challenge, but instead by how we respond to that challenge, you will be part of the generation that will ensure Texas kids will be the best educated kids in the United States of America. Thank you for being involved. God bless you all, and God bless the great state of Texas. Thank you.